Hello everyone, it's that time of year again. The air is getting a little crisper, and the leaves are putting on their spectacular final show. The big question is starting to bubble up. What will this winter be like? For some, the thought of a snowy winter brings pure joy. They dream of waking up to a quiet, white world, perfect for skiing, sledding, or just sipping hot cocoa by the fire. Kids are already hoping for those magical words. Snow day. It's a season of wonder, a time to slow down and appreciate a world transformed by snow. There's the worry about getting to work safely, the stress of shoveling heavy, wet snow. For many, a big snowstorm means potential power outages, frozen pipes, and the logistical headache of daily life when the world is frozen solid. It's a challenge, a test of our preparedness and patience. These contrasting feelings make winter forecasting so fascinating. It's not just science, it's about how weather impacts lives, plans, and emotions. So, will this be the year of blockbuster snow totals? Will we talk about winter 2025-2026 for years to come? That's the million-dollar question the weather community spends months on. We look at global patterns, ocean temperatures. It's like being a detective, searching the planet for clues. This year, the signals are interesting. It could be very different depending on where you live. As we stand in October 2025, early signs are aligning. We're seeing specific patterns in the Pacific Ocean. But a seasonal forecast is a broad overview, not a day-to-day report. It gives the general theme of the season. Will it be a blockbuster movie full of snowy action or a quieter drama? Let's dive into the science, look at regional predictions, and get you ready. It's going to be an interesting ride. You might wonder how we can possibly predict the weather months in advance. It seems like magic, but it's actually a fascinating blend of science and pattern recognition. Long-range forecasting isn't about pinpointing a blizzard on a specific Tuesday in January. Instead, it's about understanding the large-scale drivers that steer our weather over an entire season. Think of it like predicting the personality of the winter. Will it be angry and stormy, or calm and mild? We start by looking at massive, planetary-scale features that set the stage for everything else downstream. Specifically, we look at water temperatures along the equator. This is where the famous climate pattern known as El Niño and the pattern known as La Niña. When the equatorial Pacific is warmer than average, that's El Niño. When it's colder than average, that's La Niña. These phenomena can shift the jet stream, the fast-moving river of air high in the atmosphere that guides storms across the United States. Where the jet stream goes, the storms follow. But it's not just ENSO. We look for other, more subtle clues. We analyze the Arctic oscillation, pressure patterns over the Arctic. A negative Arctic oscillation can unleash frigid Arctic air southward into the U.S., creating prime conditions for snow. We also check sea surface temperatures in the Atlantic, sea surface temps in other oceans, and fall snow cover in Siberia. Heavy Siberian October snow can be a clue for a colder, snowier eastern U.S. winter. Putting these pieces together is the art and science of seasonal forecasting. We run sophisticated computer models that simulate the atmosphere and oceans. Those models run countless calculations to project how large-scale patterns will evolve. Then we compare model outputs with historical winters that had similar setups. By combining these methods, we build a confident forecast for the character and general feel of the upcoming winter season. So, what are these global patterns telling us for the winter of 2025 to 2026? This is the exciting part. After a couple of years dominated by other patterns, the big story this winter is the expected return of a moderate to strong La Niña. This means we are anticipating a persistent area of cooler-than-average water in the equatorial Pacific Ocean. For weather watchers, the words strong La Niña immediately bring specific winter scenarios to mind. It's a major signal that dramatically tilts the odds for certain types of weather in different parts of the country, and we are watching it develop right now. What does a La Niña winter typically mean for the United States? Generally, it creates a jet stream pattern that is quite wavy and amplified. This pattern often brings colder and stormier conditions to the northern tier of the country. Pacific Northwest, Northern Rockies, Northern Plains, Great Lakes. These areas are often in the direct path of the storm track. Meanwhile, the southern part of the country, California, across to the southeast, tends to be warmer and, importantly, drier than average. For the tens of millions of people living in the bustling I-95 corridor, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, Boston. In a classic La Niña winter, this region can be a real battleground zone. The main storm track is often to the north and west, but the cold air is certainly available. The key for big snowstorms in the I-95 corridor is the exact track of individual storms. Off-coast tracks can produce powerful nor'easters and feet of snow. Slightly inland tracks often bring a messy mix or rain to the coast. This year, our forecast calls for a winter that will feel more like a traditional snowy winter for the interior Northeast. Upstate New York, New England. These interior areas should see consistent cold and frequent storms, above average snowfall likely. Ski resorts in Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, fantastic season expected. For big coastal cities like New York and Boston, the forecast is trickier. We expect a boom or bust season. Near average totals are possible, but driven by a few very large storms rather than steady light snow. Think back to the winter of 2014-2015. That season delivered relentless cold and record snow in Boston. Now, let's turn our attention to the heartland. The Midwest is a region that truly knows winter, the biting winds of the Dakotas, the legendary lake-effect snowbelts of the Great Lakes. Under a typical La Niña pattern, the Midwest is often split. The upper Midwest, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Upper Peninsula of Michigan, is frequently positioned in the crosshairs of the cold and the storm track. We expect this region to experience a colder and snowier than average winter. Get ready for plenty of Alberta clippers, those fast-moving systems that bring shots of cold air and several inches of fluffy snow at a time. For the Great Lakes, a La Niña winter can mean the lake-effect snow machine gets kicked into high gear. With repeated blasts of Arctic air moving over the relatively mild waters of the lakes, especially early in the season, the potential for staggering snowfall totals in the traditional snowbelts is very high. Areas downwind of Lake Erie, areas downwind of Lake Ontario, Buffalo, New York, Tug Hill Plateau should prepare for a very active season. Out west, the La Niña pattern creates a very dramatic and distinct north-south split. It's truly a tale of two different winters, and the dividing line is often sharp. Let's start with the Pacific Northwest: Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming. The jet stream tends to aim a fire hose of moisture directly at this region, bringing frequent storms, abundant mountain snow, and a colder than average season. This is the classic La Niña signal. We are forecasting an exceptional season for the ski resorts in this region: Mount Baker, Jackson Hole. This is critical not just for recreation, but for building up the snowpack that will melt and supply water to the region through the dry summer months. For cities at lower elevations like Seattle and Portland, it means a colder, wetter winter than normal, with an increased chance of seeing lowland snow events. Residents should be prepared for a few disruptive snow or ice storms that could impact travel throughout the season. Now, let's travel south: California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, and the Southwest. The storm track that pummels the Northwest typically bypasses this region to the north. This leaves the Southwest under a ridge of high pressure, leading to conditions that are warmer and, crucially, much drier than average. For a region that has been struggling with long-term drought, this is not good news at all. We are forecasting a below-average to well-below-average season for snowfall in the Sierra Nevada and the mountains of the Four Corners region. This stark contrast is one of the most reliable and impactful signatures of a La Niña winter, bringing a season of feast to the north and famine to the south. When we talk about winter forecasts, the southern states often feel left out of the conversation. But every few years, a pattern aligns that brings a memorable, disruptive, and sometimes magical snowfall deep into the south. With a La Niña pattern in place, the general outlook for the south, from Texas across to Georgia and the Carolinas, is for a warmer and drier than average winter. The subtropical jet stream, which can bring moisture from the Gulf of Mexico, is typically weaker and further south, starving the region of the moisture needed for significant winter storms. For most of the deep south, including places like Atlanta, Birmingham, Dallas, the chances of a major snow event are lower than average this winter. Regardless of what the forecast says, for your specific area, being prepared is always the smartest strategy. A seasonal forecast gives us the big picture, but a single unexpected storm can define your entire winter. So let's talk about some simple, practical steps you can take right now before the first flake flies. The best time to prepare is on a calm, sunny day in autumn, not when the snow is already piling up. First, let's talk about your home. This is your safe haven during a storm. Walk around your house and check for drafts around windows and doors. Weather stripping or caulk can make a huge difference. Get your furnace inspected for efficiency and safety. Make sure you have working smoke and carbon monoxide detectors with fresh batteries. These are life-saving if you use alternative heating during a power outage. Finally, don't forget your car. Your vehicle needs a winter emergency kit too. Blankets, extra hats and gloves, small shovel, bag of sand or cat litter for traction, jumper cables, ice scraper, snacks and water. Check tire tread and pressure. Keep your gas tank at least half full all winter. A full tank helps prevent fuel line freezing and provides heat if stranded. These preparations can turn a crisis into a manageable inconvenience. So, as we look ahead to the winter of 2025 to 2026, the science points to a season of major contrasts across the United States, driven largely by a strengthening La Niña. We'll see you out there.